Traci, this is a question that came up in our webinar. Do you have tips to share for getting other volunteers or committee folks on board with engaging in this sort of model for faith formation? You know, how do we encourage leaders to realize that they aren't cruise directors, as you named earlier, and that simplicity and repeatability is better?
Well, I think I wish I had like the top 5 tips that I could just spew out, and that would make it so much easier. But I think if we think about Jesus's model, it's like, it's so much messier than that. You know, somebody will ask Jesus a question and they'll be like, so there was a fig tree, right? And then this, the other story that came to mind is this idea of the disciples deciding if they're going to follow Jesus. And somebody says, Nazareth, is anything good come from there? And then one says to the other, well, come and see. So there's this invitation to see for ourselves. So I think it's like, you know, I often talk about the long obedience in the same direction. And so if your church is very cruise directory and very programmatic and doesn't have this sort of what I talk about, which is kind of like a slower, repeated rhythm to it. I think the goal is not to just say you're doing it wrong and change it. The idea would be, I would think of it like a slow simmer, you know, in the background, and just gently taking things away, gently showing people, gently bringing them along. So instead of trying to convince the leadership, to have them see for themselves and say, you can say your opinion, say, you know, I've really been wanting to experiment with X, Y, or Z. I've been wanting us to try this and see how it goes. And then invite their feedback and see what they say. If they say, you know, I don't like this because it's scary, or I don't like it because the other church isn't doing it this way, then you can talk about what the objections are. Because I don't know, again, unless I'm in your church, what the culture is and what the resistance might be. But I do know, I do feel pretty confident that a very harsh, we're doing it wrong, we have to do something else, will not go over in most churches. So to try and say to yourself, well, which of these things do I want to play around with, and to have an attitude of play about it too, is also, I think, really useful. So good luck. I wish I had an easier 12-step process. Maybe we'll work on that.
Subject for the next book, right?
Yes, right.
Thanks.